Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. And with me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at IHateCritics.net, everyone'scriticpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The handle's CriticsPod. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Lex, all your podcatchers. And then catch us live on YouTube every Monday evening between 6 and 9 p.m., give or take, Central Time. Patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to help support the podcast. And this week's episode is a kind of a bonus episode, even though it's our regular episode. We're going to skip this week because last week we watched a movie called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Is that what it's called? And I don't know. We've learned something from that movie. One, we could talk about it again, and that'd be a great episode. and I'd do that. Two, there's just something that, you know, when you disagree with somebody, they just said be kind, and there's certain things that came out this week that we disagree with, and rather than be harsh and go, we're going to skip over them, and we're just not going to do them. And we're going to try to give you a Patreon bonus episode to give you guys a taste of what you've been missing, or if you haven't heard them yet. We have done several episodes. We've covered Nirvana, the Beatles, Metallica. And this week we're going to kind of cover two more bands that neither one of us are that familiar with. So that's going to be the episode this week. I hope you like it. If you don't like it, then the normal episodes will return next week. But we're going to give you guys a taste of what those episodes are going to be like in the future. And hopefully, as we do these music ones more, we'll get more of a groove going, because it's new to us, too. It's a different format than a normal episode. But anyway, do you have a preference where we start, Sean?
No, not really. I can go either way.
All right, then I will share the screen to the pictures I have, and I don't know the order they're going to pop up in, and we'll just let the computer... Oh, it's not what I wanted to do. All right, here we go. One. And let's see what the computer screen chooses. Looks like we're going to start with The Darkness. The Darkness is I guess, would you consider him a one-hit wonder from like the mid-2000s? With what I think we both thought was a comedy.
Country, they were huge. Like every record they put out was a big thing. And when they broke up, it was major news. Here, people only know The Darkness for one song, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, is the only thing that anybody knows. And that one's almost going to be 20 years old next year, I think. 2003 is when that came out. It's hard to believe, right?
We're so old.
But at least that was a song that a lot of people remember and really love. But The Darkness has been going at it for years, and they did take a long leave of absence. The lead singer developed a drug problem and left the band and got healthy, and then they got back together. And getting back together, they've done several albums since, including this one, which was released in 2019.
Yeah, in every religious holiday, and I'm not proud to say this, but it's something my friends and I do, is we'll send texts back and forth of the most offensive way to say Happy Easter or Merry Christmas. And I was scrolling Instagram, and one of my favorite new bands called Hailstorm was actually, they had this in their story, and they were listening to it, and I was like, oh, that's funny. So I just downloaded the one song. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually really good. So I got the whole album, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And the last 2 years, or 3 years, I guess it would be now, it's kind of my Easter record that I listen to around Easter. But that's how I came across this record. And then as Sean and I were deciding what to do this week, I was half joking, and he was like, oh, just try it. And I was like, God, I hope he likes it. God, I hope he likes it. God, I hope. But I don't know. I love it. But here's the track listing on our YouTube page. And do you want to get us started?
Yeah, "Rock and Roll Deserves to Die" is the first song on the record, and it's a perfect classic rock song that is just a like a declaration of purpose, if you will. You've got a band here "Rock and Roll Deserves to Die" is just them observing every other rock group on the planet and just giving them the middle finger because we're better, we're the only rock band in the world, and you gotta love that throwback arrogance to the 1980s is just a beautiful part of what the Darkness does. Obviously, I mean, everything else on this record is there is even they're going to contradict themselves a lot later on in lyrically, and it doesn't really matter because again, a lot of it is humor. A lot of this is based on irony and a lot of sarcasm and just a great deal of humor, and that's really what you get throughout the entire record. But then this thing just hits hard. Like the first thing that you hear is just this song coming in really heavy and exciting. The big guitars, the hair metal sound is just gorgeous. And then that lead singer, that guy's amazing. That the notes that he's still able to hit at 47 years old is just it's a miracle. And considering all that he's been through, it's miraculous that he's still been able to keep his voice the way he has. He still sounds a lot like he did when he put out when they put out I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It's still the same guy. It is still the same. That's still that same sense of humor. But then the band just explodes behind him brilliantly.
Oh yeah, I mean it kicks off almost in a Zeppelin-esque kind of mandolin, really kind of a soft intro that then goes into this very, I don't want to call it, it's like Queen meets Whitesnake, level, theatrical yet, standard rock, it's just fun. And I'm not a guy who cares about lyrics, or I don't even really notice them, if that makes sense. I'm very much guitar oriented, or strings in general. I just like hearing that in the music, and I think the riff's great. I think everything about the song is great, and his voice, I know it's cheesy, but I think it's fun, and I think it's almost borderline Tenacious D, Steel Panther level of cheese. Not quite there,
yeah, right.
A little bit more serious than they are, but it's still fun, and I just, it's hard for me to understand how you couldn't like this. One thing you said to me in the messages, and maybe you'll get to it later on, is that when you heard these songs, you felt like you'd heard them before. It was like they were already comfortable. A lot of times when you listen to a new record, it might take a time or two. This is one of those records where you just feel like you've already heard it as you're hearing it for the first time. And, in some ways you could say that makes it a little formulaic, but it's, to me, I don't know. I think that's a good thing in this scenario. I think the guitars, the hooks are perfect. It's not redundant. It's not like it's a Whitesnake record. It's a combination of a lot of bands I like kind of mixed into one. And I think this is a great cheesy way to get it kicked off, especially when you're combining bands like Zeppelin and Queen with Whitesnake.
It's amazing. It's a hair metal rock song, but it's also a deconstruction of hair metal rock songs at the same time. It's fucking great. I love lyrics. Lyrics are my favorite part of any song, and this one's got just some killer lines. But one that really hits me when I hear it is he's talking about all tattoos and no scars. It's just calling out every rock star for being soft. It just makes me think of those guys who get like barbed wire tattoos. Like you just want to put real barbed wire on there and really see how it feels.
Right. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now live, Sean will go on to mention earlier that they go on to totally contradict themselves with a song like "Choke on It" at the end is like the song they're talking about. I don't know. But I also love the versatility on the album, which, we can jump right into the next song, "How Can I Lose Your Love?" Not like the first song, but equally as good.
But it's like a Poison level power ballad in many ways. It's fucking great, and beautiful. It's a beautiful song when you break it down.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's even like I actually kind of like it better than hair metal because I do hear that 70s rock. Only it's like if Zeppelin and Queen existed, but they had Guns N' Roses before them, so like they could be influenced by that, or because it's not. The lyrics are definitely cheesy, but the music itself isn't as. I don't know. I there is an element of Brian May and Jimmy Page that I hear in the guitar playing. It's not just simply CeCe DeVille or Richie Sambora. It's these iconic guitar riffs, and you can like hear every string no matter what they're playing, and that kind of went away in the 80s, and that's the big difference for me is that it's a little bit more musical than they were. Though they were very show-offy in the 80s, so they were great players, don't get me wrong, but there's something to the songwriting that's just a little bit different and a little less, I don't know, formula, I guess would be the word I want to use, because you just really never know where they're going to go, which maybe is why I like it so much.
Totally unpredictable. I love that chorus is fantastic. Like, how can I lose your love if I'm still trying to find it? That's a legit great lyric. On top of being clever, it's a legitimately great lyric.
Yeah. Let's move on to Live Till I Die. This was kind of a standout for me, and this is one where the lyrics kind of did jump out at me. I didn't write any of them down, but early on just kind of seemed more autobiographical. I don't know when he was born, but it seemed like he was, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. What did you think about this song?
It has got the best hook on the entire record. Maybe second to Heavy Metal Lover. We'll get to that one, but in terms of a song that just sticks in your head, this is the one that has that hook that is just going to stay in your brain for a very long time. That is, live till I die, laugh till I cry, live till I die, laugh. That's going to be in my head forever. I'm never going to get rid of that.
Right. The next two are kind of lost on me. Heart Explodes and Deck Chair.
Are you really? I love Heart Explodes.
I'm sure I like it. I can't remember it off the top of my head though.
This one was reminiscent again. Like I keep going back to the 80s, but like it just felt like this blast of like classic nostalgia. It's very heavy. Like, the idea of like playing rock until your heart explodes.
Right.
That's fucking great. That vibe. It's both cheesy, but also they pull it off just so well. As silly as it might be, like they always, with the skill that they have, they always bring that cheesy element back around to something, and they sell it to you as rock, and that's talent.
Oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, when I listen to the record, every time I've heard it, other than the first few times I listened to the song Easter Is Canceled, I listen to beginning to end. It's like that's just what I do. I don't just pick out the song. So sometimes I don't know which one's which. There's certain ones that stick out. I mean, how do you like Heavy Metal Lover, which we're going to get to, is so obviously what it is. Mm-hmm. And then you have the title track and the first couple. So I know those names. I've just I'm either in the car or I just have it on. I listen to it a lot this weekend. I listen to it every Easter weekend. I love every song on the record. I just don't always know which one's which when it comes to naming them. So my apologies on Heart Explodes and Deck Chair.
I've been listening to it all afternoon, so it for me it's relatively easy to recall. Like, and Deck Chair is just the greatest song ever written about a deck chair. Like, there is no song ever that has been a love song about a deck chair, and it fucking works. It's so great. He just sticks to the premise. He's just so sad about losing a deck chair off of his boat. It's the deck chair. It's his poor deck chair, the one that has always, held his butt.
I mean, you can't say this band's not fun. But they know they're being fun, and that's what works with what they're doing.
The melodrama of this song, including it, like he includes a French breakdown. In the middle of the song, just busts out some French to underline the ennui that is on set because of the loss of his deck chair. And just the swell to the end is so beautiful too. Just I stand here alone, for I have not a throne. The seat I relied on belongs to Poseidon. She is Neptune's now. Like the fucking the balls of that melodrama is fucking beautiful.
And this is why we're different listeners too. This, I mean, I up until right now did not know this was just about a duck chair. Because again, it's weird. My friend Corey who used to do the IBM podcast, he had some of this TikTok of how this guy listens to music, and you hear the words, the lyrics are there, but the voice is more of its own instrument, and I appreciate the range he's hitting. I don't really care what he's saying. You know, certain things are fun. You know, Easter is canceled sounds like it's going to piss somebody off, so that sticks in my head. But for the most part, it's the noises that are coming out of his mouth, not so much the words. So it's kind of fun to hear what these songs are about. But let's move on to Easter is Canceled, because right out of the gate, as a guitar guy, this riff is just badass from the get-go.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Slash level, you know, could be on a Guns N' Roses kind of, it's that good of a riff. Turns into kind of a fun little corny rock song, but I love that opening riff. Just bluesy and heavy, and absolutely is what drew me into the record in the first place.
It is a great rock song with a great, amazing riff to open, and then of course those classic themes of criticizing religion and criticizing, you know, the hypocrisy of religion. You know, Easter is Canceled is definitely a provocative phrase, but he's going even further, basically singing part of it as if he were Jesus, and then he's the devil, then he's the guy killing Jesus. Like, it's just, he takes it through numerous different ways to interpret it, and it's just kind of wonderful that way. And it builds and builds and builds, and just has a big, beautiful explosion in the. It's just fucking fantastic.
And I really don't want to oversell the record.
I think I'm doing that.
But it's good. I mean, it really is I don't know what to compare it to without overselling it, because there's not a bad song on here. You can listen to it beginning to end. There's no reason to skip anything. And when we get to Have Him at a Lower, which is next, like, it's not Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's the next level down. I mean, it's this kind of really crazy, cool rock opera thing that they're doing that I think is just phenomenal, but you'll do a better job of explaining it.
Heavy Metal Lover is my new favorite song.
It's amazing.
I love this song so much. It is so great. It is a love song sung specifically to a woman who is just the epitome of heavy metal, to the point where he's worried that she might rust. You're so metal, I worry you'll rust. It just kills me. I heard that line, is like, this is my favorite song now. This is the one. But it's all, I mean, just the imagery is so strong. Like, lyrically, like, he creates this woman in your head of what she looks like, you know. Even her pajamas are black. Like, everything about her is just the most metal thing you can think of. And it reminded me, it's both like a Kiss song and a complete deconstruction of a Kiss song in many ways. Like, it's a critique of, like, how shitty a Kiss song is. Like, here's a Kiss song that's really, really good.
That's funny, because I mean, it's almost a ballad at times, or like for most of the lyrics, and then it just jumps into this metal riff. And then they end on a nice little metal breakdown, which is even better. And nothing like anything else on the record. I mean, it's like metal. Like if Kiss were to try to play a Metallica song, that's probably what it would sound like, if that makes sense. Or because it's fast and it's, heavy metal, but it's almost funny the way they're doing it. Like they're just like, we have this cool riff, we don't have a song where it fits, let's write a song about people who like this music and just play the riff because we like it. And I mean, and I don't know what they really did, but it just, the way it transitions is, it's not even really a transition, just it pauses and then it goes into the heavy stuff, and then it pauses and it goes back to the soft stuff. But it works in a weird way, which is,
it so does. The final few lines are just about her, the way she cuts meat. She's cutting meat. God damn it, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and part of me wants them to be like serious, like Spinal Tap level, like they don't know they're being corny and funny. They clearly know what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. This is fully calculated.
Which, in a way, is even neater because, I don't know, some parts you want to laugh at them, but the other part is like, well, they know what they're doing and they just knocked it out of the park. This isn't fair. It's just too good. I don't know.
They're fully in on the joke, and that's the thing, is like they are very, very funny, but also really, really good. Like the songs back up how as funny as they are, they back up that with like just incredible talent behind it. From everybody in the band, every aspect of the band is very, very good, and they just happen to be very, very funny on top of it.
And don't get me wrong, I love Tenacious D and Steel Panther, but one's got Jack Black, so that kind of helps them out, but they're kind of one-note jokes. These are, like Sean said, they wrote a song about a deck chair and they took it seriously. It's not all about sex and the devil and whatever else. It's a wide variety of things, and that's kind of what's...
Sex and the devil are in there.
Oh, yeah. But so are deck chairs. They're more than a one-note joke.
Absolutely.
But then the transition out of Heavy Metal Lover straight into In Another Life is just two polar opposites.
Yeah, In Another Life is probably my least, like if I had to rank it, if I were ranking all the songs, it would probably be at the bottom of my list. Not that it's not a bad song by any stretch. It's the most tame, sort of straightforward song on the record.
Right. I am with you 100%. And maybe Choke on It's my second least favorite. The next song. Not that there's anything wrong with that song. It's just kind of... It's like you were saying early on, it's the song Rock and Roll Deserves to Die is making fun of. In my opinion, at least. It's very much something that I could see Motley Crue writing or somebody like that from that era. It's the least kind of creative of all this, lyrically at least.
I know this is one where they're going for a joke and they're kind of coming up a little bit short, because kind of the sentiment here is kind of what a bitter middle-aged divorced guy would say about his ex-wife, and that plays like kind of a hack comedian in a way. And I know that's not what they're going for. I know they're going for kind of, again, like to satirize that idea, but they don't quite get this. They don't quite get there on Choke on It.
Yeah, it almost plays like a Steel Panther song versus theirs. But then you move on to the last track, We Are the Guitar Men, which I actually really like. I just think it's a fun little corny ballady rock song.
And again, we're talking about the hypocrisy before. You start with Rock and Roll Deserves to Die, and you come back around to a song that is long. That basically has the lyric "Long live rock and roll" in it.
Yeah,
it's pretty great, and I mean, just the ahs and the so beautiful. It is a great song though, and it does it. Because every rock record of the 70s and 80s kind of had a song like We Are the Guitar Men that celebrates being on the road and being a rock star and all that comes with that. And the guitar is an extension of my soul is a sentiment that's pretty typical of that day and age. So it definitely fits, but it also does have a little bit of that edgy, the darkness feel to it, because there is that sort of sense of satire coming through as well of that idea. Like, it's going over the top. Like,
right.
You say you're connected to your guitar, but is it an extension of your very soul as it is mine?
Right. They play this with this level of arrogance in a comedic way.
Yeah.
That, Spinal Tap made fun of, but they do it very genuine and like, they're not, but they're playing. It's just more genuine and less like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's definitely a joke, but they buy into it and they just go with it and they run and just have fun. But it's not so over the top where they're a comedic act,
It's one of those perfect needle points that that points right into the hypocrisy of records just like it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll just go off into a little mini tangent. I went to a lot of concerts in the last 4 weeks just because COVID, and now they're all back. And I mean, I've been to Peoria, Des Moines. Like, it's been like 10 or 11 concerts. It's been a lot. The last one we saw was, I just am trying to get my kids to go and get into some of the stuff I like. And I went to a band I normally wouldn't go see because I'm not really a big fan of them. And they walk out on stage with the lights behind them, and they just stand there and pose and look out at the audience. I'm just like, oh my God, these guys are the biggest douchebags in the world. Then they play the entire set to a backing track. It was awful, but my kids loved it, and it's the future of rock and roll, I guess, unfortunately. But it just reminded me of this song, just the way they walked out, like, yeah, we're the guitar men, and just kind of looking at us, soak it in, almost pro wrestling-ish, only I don't know if they were in on the joke or not. Maybe they were. I don't know. I'm being extra harsh on this band, but they did do a great tribute to Taylor Hawkins, so there's that at least. But
there's that. This runs through We Are the Guitar Men, but I actually listened to the extended cut of this record with a few more songs on it, and one of which is called Lay Low. Mm-hmm. You know Lay Low?
Yes, I do.
It's basically like a riff on on Stefan from Saturday Night Live. It's like they create this universe where there's this bar you can go where the Darkness is the band that plays there, and they've got both the Delavines and Rita Ora. It is a wonderfully brilliant comedy, piece of comedy, and it's probably the most like intentionally funny song, which does keep it kind of in a notch below, say, Heart Explodes and certainly Deck Chair and Heavy Metal Lover. but in terms of just who they are, in terms of expressing their personality and their humor, this one is pretty strong in that way.
But simply on a musical level, as a guitar fan, this is a fantastic guitar record for anybody who's into guitar. It is insane to me that I've never heard of this outside of somebody posting on Instagram as a joke on Easter. If this had come out in the late 80s or early 90s, I mean, I think this could have survived grunge. It's that tight of a record. I mean, it really is there's no reason to skip a track. It's that good. At the same time, I don't want to be like, it's Appetite for this. It's not.
No.
It's
the kind of record that makes you feel ashamed for how much you enjoyed Def Leppard as in the 80s. Def Leppard, even Bon Jovi or Poison too, like that group of bands, you kind of feel bad when you listen to this, and it's just a perfect like deconstruction of all that they did, like the shit that they took seriously and played up as what their actual lives were. Like this record comes along and just blasts them out of the fucking water. It not only rocks harder than they do, it's just, it takes what they do and does it far better.
That's the thing. I mean, I would and I'm not even being a smartass when I say, like, I'd put this up against Hysteria or Slippery When Wet or Look What the Cat Drew Again or Photo, whatever, Pyramid, whatever I can't remember the name of this, whatever that Def Leppard record was. I think it's it doesn't have the hits that those did, but as a collective, I think it's a better record than all those, personally.
Because it's a deconstruction of those. It really takes those records apart and satirizes. It takes the pomposity of those records and the absurdity of those lyrics and gives them an absurd context against this honestly far better technically sounding record.
Right. And when I hear it musically, I don't hear the 80s. I actually hear the 70s just with a little bit tighter guitar. That's about it. That's kind of what I hear when I hear it. So I can't recommend it enough. I'm glad I'm kind of, now that I've recommended it to one person after 3 years and they've been receptive to it, that maybe I can recommend it to more. So that makes me feel better about liking this record. I mean, I'd go if they were touring the U.S. right now, I'd jump on it right away. Sadly, I haven't gone and listened to anything else, which is a crime. If I liked this, I liked that first record even beyond the song that they had. I don't know why I don't give them more effort in my music listening. But
the first record, it's similar to this, but it's like it also like includes like a little bit of Cheap Trick,
right.
A little more pastiche of that power pop of the time. So it's got a little bit of that to it, which maybe might not appeal in the same way as this does. This is a much harder record, I would say, than that one was.
Yeah, I love Cheap Trick though too, so that's the other part. I mean, this, like I said, this really does click off. What I love most about music is this kind of genre, the blues. I love the bluesy rock. I love the Cheap Trick, which is not so much on this record, like you said, but I do love them. Everything about what I love in rock and roll is caught in this album, and it makes fun of it to my face, and I don't care because they know, but they also love it too, and maybe that's what it is. They definitely love what they're doing, and they just kind of embrace the cheesiness of some of the themes that go along with it. For Easter, when we went to my parents' house, I had to tell my son, we can't talk about the devil. We don't really worship the devil. We just like heavy metal, and they sing about it a lot, but you can't talk about it in front of your grandma and grandpa because they will not be happy.
Just to tangent on the Easter thing, I think I saw 5 different people do the same TikTok where they did this green screen, like there's the Roman guard standing in front of the cave where Jesus is, and the guard starts to sing "Come and Get Your Love." He gets to the part where he says "Hey," and then you hear from the cave "Hey." It's terrible, but it's funny as hell.
Why is it terrible? It's just because we've been conditioned to think that it's terrible. That's apparently the most offensive thing ever, when really it's anyway. Yeah, Easter.
It's terrible I think it's terrible that everybody did the same joke.
Yeah, that's the worst offensive thing about
that's the terrible part.
Right. But again, Easter is canceled by the darkness. A phenomenal record. Everybody should go listen to it, especially if you're into rock and roll. It encapsulates everything.
It blows my mind. This came out in 2019 and nobody noticed.
Yeah,
that is such a shame.
All right, let's move on to our next record, which is nothing like The Darkness. Easter is canceled.
Some similar themes, but
sure, but just a wholly original. It's 9 Inch Nails, A Downward Spiral, one of the, I guess, classic, iconic records from the early 90s. Quite frankly, an album that was over my head at the time. And even now, it musically kind of is. As a guy who listens to the music and doesn't get into lyrics, this is definitely something that's kind of beyond, I don't know if beyond, outside my scope of what I like to listen to is. I'm more into the live performance. I love guitars. I love I love the musicianship, and there is musicianship here. Don't get me wrong, but it's very much more about the recording and the process of orchestrating the songs and the themes and the record as a whole, which is outside of what I like a lot of times. That said, I have way more respect for Trent Reznor after release. I mean, I spent a lot of time with this one specifically, which is why I forgot some of the Darkness songs, because I really honestly was listening to it as a whole for the first time this weekend.
Same, honestly. I avoided 9 Inch Nails. I avoided this because it was just so dark, and it was 1994. You know, I don't know if Cobain had killed himself by then or not. It was already like there were already tough times, and then this comes along and is the darkest thing imaginable, and it was not easy. Not an easy listen. So I avoided it as well till now. Basically, the first time actually sitting down and listening to the of this record, and what I come to is that this is a pretty good indication of why Trent Reznor is a composer now for movies, because this is an incredibly cinematic. What he does here is. A lot of this sounds like it could be the soundtrack of a horror film. If you wanted it to be, you could create. This is probably more frightening than most horror films that you and I have to suffer through. There are a lot of terrible horror movies in the last 27 years that don't match the kind of horror that Trent Reznor is capable of delivering in this record.
In a lot of ways, it's we see those movies where like. That was great. I don't ever got to watch that again. Requiem for the Dream. And this isn't quite that, because, I mean, I know Closer. Everybody knows Closer, Hurt. There's songs in here that I just know, and I don't dislike them. I never did. They just weren't my go-tos. But if you really spend time with this, this is a depressing as hell. I mean, this record's basically a concept album about a guy just going down the downward spiral through depression to the point where he kills himself, and then the record ends. So I mean, it's a depressing record. At the same time, you look at the stuff that was coming out in that time period and what it got lumped with, it made no sense. It's not a metal record. It's not. I know he went out with Marilyn Manson and he kind of found Marilyn Manson out, but they're nothing alike, really. This is way more composed. I mean, even the new metal stuff that kind of came after this and Tool and everything, this is just its own little lane. It's almost like David Bowie met Frank Zappa and made a record. Pink Floyd The Wall was a big influence on this specific record. But anyway, let's try to dive in and deconstruct as best we can.
Yeah, so Mr. Self-Destruct is pretty straightforward. It's a guy who's, I think you could obviously find the drug influence here. Like this is a person who's been using a lot of drugs and is, it's not improving their depression, and it's just kind of taking him further and further down this downward spiral. And it's an amazing way to start a record, because it just comes in really heavy and disorienting and disturbing right off the bat. You're never going to be comfortable listening to this record. Not for 1 second. He's not going to let you relax for a moment. Everything is just noise, and not a bad way. Like, I can understand why people do want to listen to this. And I get the appeal of it. I was definitely feeling this record from the beginning on it, and it is damningly effective. It is also, it does, I can understand people who might even work out to this a little bit. It gets a little bit dark, so I understand, like, people who maybe enjoy a little bit of extra pain might like this a little bit. There's a masochistic quality to it that I can definitely understand the appeal of in some ways. But yeah, it is a powerhouse way to start a record.
Oh yeah, and even and I'm kind of talking about the album as a whole here, but like back to the working out to it, he almost fucks with you if you're gonna work out to this, because it'll be heavy, then it'll slow down, and it's definitely way more cinematic. But you're right. There's definitely a groove at times where you're just like, I could see why this would get you going, and then you throw the masochistic stuff in there, which does help out when you're working out. I mean, the whole thing's a full blown work of art, and that's kind of. I came away with a ton of respect for them, specifically Trent Reznor, after this. I actually, the next song, Piggy, is one of my favorite songs on it. I don't know why. It just kind of is it just sounds messed up from the beginning.
I mean, I couldn't help but think of getting into the mindset of like a school shooter listening to this song. It is disturbing just how much you can get into that mindset of, like, oftentimes, as much as this is about like seemingly a concept album about this one guy and what's going on in his head, you could almost transplant this to like the mind of a serial killer who's, it's like the soundtrack of somebody who is preparing to do something horrible. He's taken a victim and he's going to do terrible things to them. And to evoke that mindset as this does, which I think we'll get into in the next song, but there's so many weird things about this song. I was reading about the background of this song. The fact he wrote it about one of his band members, apparently, whom he called Piggy, one of the band members who left early on.
Was it the Robert Patrick guy?
I'm not sure. I can't remember his name. He went on to start Filter.
Yeah. That guy's a dick. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, that's who the song is about. So, but also just to underline like the point about killing and killers, this song was written and recorded on Cielo Drive.
Right. In the house where like literally Susan Atkins wrote the word pig on the wall of this house where they recorded this song. Yeah.
That is kind of it gives it an extra bit of disturbing reality to it. But then just the way he says that lyric over and over again, nothing can stop me now because I don't care anymore. It is haunting.
Did you read about when he met Sharon Tate's sister?
No.
Because they basically recorded the whole album in the house where she was murdered.
Yeah.
And when he met the sister, she's like, I just hope you're not trying to exploit the murderers. And the reason he was in there was, probably, there's a part of us as humans that it just gets into the culture of America and things you see on TV. And I think he was just interested and it seemed cool. And like, I was in the Manson house and blah, blah, blah. And then he met somebody who was affected by it. And it was just like everything that seemed neat about what he was doing just hit home really hard. And I think it might have been after they were done. But I think he kind of regretted a lot of being there, because also, what if it was his sister? What if and that was neat to read. He did that in an interview, I think, a few years back. Talked about that, but I mean, it truly is messed up. I mean, I think they called the studio Le Pig or something like that because that's what she wrote on. And again, they were young and stupid. Yeah. But at the same time, incredibly smart when it came to music and art. And all that mixed together is just uncomfortable, and at the same time, it's hard to turn away.
Really, truly, yeah. It's one of those things. It's so powerful. You can't turn away from this song. Right.
Let's move on to Hearsay.
Yeah, Heresy. This is, again, going back to the horror movie thing. This is a song that I was telling you in a message that the movie Nocturno, which we saw earlier this year, I really think you could edit this song to the images in that movie and create something truly terrifying. This is a horror film of a song, and just fucking terrifying to listen to at times. The noise and the industrial sound and incredibly cinematic imagery.
And that's when I hear songs like, I mean, really the whole record, but this one's in particular, it's just like, where do you come up with, like, where do you why are you doing that, and how did you get there? That really, when I listen to music, I like to think about that. And when I used to interview rock stars, that's kind of where I would go. Guys like Trent Reznor are the most intimidating for me because I just don't. It's like a filmmaker. Like, I could never get in the head of a David Lynch or a Terrence Malick. It just doesn't make sense to me. Some of it I love, some of it I hate. And here it's the same kind of thing. It's just like, where do you even think of this stuff? It's a sound. It's not even words or a plot. It's just noise and music and art, and it really is kind of fascinating and really just impressive.
You can sense the composer
right.
in Trent throughout. The way he uses different sounds, the way he's trying to bring different sounds to bear upon what he's creating is that's definitely the composer side of him. But then you get a lyric like "God is dead and no one cares," and just shout that over and over and over again. It becomes oppressive. It becomes as depressing as it sounds. Even if you're somebody like me who's an atheist, like just hearing somebody shout in that Trent Reznor voice, "God is dead and no one cares," it feels empty. It feels horrific. It feels like the absence of something.
Well, and out of context, if you write it on a piece of paper, it's just corny. It just sounds lame and metal. But when you hear it in context,
literally, the darkness just said it.
Right.
Like they said the exact same thing.
Right. But when you hear within the music, it really drags you in. When you give this album a chance, I totally get why it was as big as it was at the time. I was like, this one hit on it was a big deal. But yeah, Heresy's a really a standout on the record for sure.
Yeah, it just sticks with you.
And really, the next the next three songs flow together really well. "March of the Pigs" is I guess it was a single. I never heard it up until this week, but this one's a neat song where it just kind of shifts gears. It's very upbeat, and then it just stops with a little piano beat, and then it goes back into this upbeat groove. I just found it neat.
Mm-hmm. The lyrics, again, are very, a lot of times the lyrics, and they don't really matter. They're kind of deeply buried within the song to the point where sometimes you can't make them out. But when you do make them out, again, he finds ways to just to disturb you in a way that is very much. Again, I keep going back to the serial killer motif, and it feels that way to me when I think of this. And I think about images from really great horror movies like this. This one has one that is just man, stains like the blood on your teeth. That's right on my bone. That's just metal on bone. Like bite, right. Chew, suck away the tender parts. Fuck me.
Yeah, but even doesn't it make? Is this a song where they stop and it's like, doesn't it make you feel better?
Yeah.
I mean, this is also like this very Bowie moments in here. I don't know. I love the way it messes with you, where it's hard, fast, slow, stops, calm. It's less than 3 minutes long. Mm-hmm. It's a quick song, but it's one of the more effective songs on the whole record, made of effective songs.
Take the skin and peel it back. Now, doesn't that make you feel better? Fuck! What the hell?
Yeah.
But the distortion that leads up to that little break, doesn't it make you feel better? I mean, it really does feel like a serial killer toying with a victim. Like, that's the way it sounds to me.
Yeah. And then obviously you got the huge hit "Closer," which, again, another one you take out of context and all you hear is "I want to fuck you like an animal." When you listen to the song, it's a totally different song.
It's interesting to me. I was just kind of having this conversation with somebody else about "Closer," and when you really dig in, and I'm going into the lyrics again because that's kind of what I do, and it reminds me of something like an incel would say. Like, this is what an incel thinks sex is, like, what it's like, and women are bad because you let me violate you, like sex is me violating you. You let me desecrate you. You let me penetrate you. Like, and his feelings are more important. He breaks himself up inside. His feelings are more important than anybody else's. His pain is more important. And then I want to fuck you like an animal is like, that's not love. He just wants to fuck. He doesn't care about this person that he's essentially almost forcing himself upon. It really does have that feel of somebody who who lacks the ability to understand tenderness and what love should be. And that's what makes it so distinct and so effective, is that mindset. Because I don't think that's who Trent Reznor is, but he effectively brings that mindset to bear. And then you've got the music is so different from that, because the music is almost inviting you to relax into it a little bit without understanding what it is you're relaxing into. So in that way, it's almost a dark comedy in a way.
Right. It's almost like he's talking about an egomaniac or narcissist, but they never realize they're narcissists, but he's singing as if he is one, but he knows he is. I don't know. It's hard to. And then musically, it's, again, like nothing I've ever heard before. At the same time, insanely catchy. It's such musically an ear pleaser, but full of, like, where did you come up with this? Like, what's the riff? Where did you begin on the song? How did you know when it was over? I can't wrap my head around what he was doing here, and that just makes it more intriguing to me. And then the way it just bounces right into the next song, Ruiner, with this awesome drum beat, which is probably the most standard thing, most normal thing on the whole record, is the drum beat for the beginning of the song, Ruiner. I love it. I love the way it transitions right out of that weird ending of Closer into this new song that sounds nothing like Closer, but they play over each other for a bit there. That's why it almost needs to be listened to beginning to end versus just picking out songs. I love the way it flows.
It's weird like that. They're like, it doesn't do it all the time from song to song, but like in the middle, they just sort of let the songs run together, from Closer, Ruiner, to Becoming. They sort of all don't have an ending. They just flow from one to another as if they're telling the same story, even if they're not necessarily telling the same story.
Right. Well, I think it's supposed to be like similar to The Wall, the way it just follows this guy through this path of self-destruction. But I didn't dig into it too far. I just kind of saw that was what it was doing. Mm-hmm. But where are we at? Becoming, or
the title of this song, Ruiner, is such an evocative title. Like, it tells you so much. It just, like, Ruiner is not a word, but like, to ruin, Ruiner. Like, it's so evocative just as a title. But then you get kind of a sense of what he's ruining.
Right.
By listening to it, the lyrics are very, again, a lot of it is very incomprehensible, buried within that huge sonic industrial noise that's being created. But there's still plenty of things that stand out. The ruining of innocence, the ruining of purity. He's the ruiner. Again, I keep going back to the serial killer thing, but again, I do feel like there's an element of that to it, and I think it's kind of brilliant in that way. It's like it is incredibly cinematic.
Well, and that's the thing about, I mean, between a narcissist and a serial killer and someone who's self-destructing, they all kind of have a similar mind. I mean, they're almost they're sociopaths. I mean, they don't. I think they do kind of run together. Even if he's maybe talking about something else, the way a serial killer's mind works is similar to the way that the character he's talking about in these songs works as well. Versus, I mean, I think there's a lot for us to bring to it. It's that I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. That open to interpretation. But I think he captures so much within what he's doing that it allows us to bring what we want to it as well. It's that open-ended.
It's effective. It's disturbing. It's incredibly memorable. It's remarkably constructed. The construction of each song is both. It captures the feeling of chaos without actually being chaotic. Like you can sense the sound that Trent and the band are going for and what they're hoping that it will sound like, the sound that they want. At the same time, it sounds so chaotic and so effective of disorientation. You can't help but feel disoriented throughout the entire record. And it's a sort of compelling disorientation where you're constantly reaching for something that sounds familiar or something that will allow you a moment to relax and breathe. And it comes and then it goes, and then something else comes in and disturbs you all the more and moves you on to the next thing. And
similar to like a Pink Floyd, like, or, you know, back to movies, there are certain movies when we're doing the flick chart, we're like, well, I like it, it's good, but it's homework. I can't listen to this the way probably people did when I was in high school, or a very surface level. On the surface, I get why people would like it too. There's definitely an upbeat groove. There's memorable songs. It's dark, and people like to be dark. I can't not get pulled in all the way on concept records like this. I love Pink Floyd, but it is a process for me to listen to a Pink Floyd record. I can't just pop on comfortably numb and move on. I want to hear the whole thing. I want to put Animals on and listen to the whole record. I know that's on the wall, but I like Animals better. Same thing here. This is just, it's always going to be work for me to really, like, I don't know, I just got to get in the right mindset, and I got to give it the effort it deserves, which is why this probably won't ever be a go-to, but there'll be days where I want to. So if that makes sense,
I could definitely add this song to my writing playlist. Because it has a certain sonic forcefulness to it that compels you, even if it can be on in the background and be something that is propellant for your thoughts and energetic, and it certainly kept my mind going while I was doing other things the second time I listened to it.
No, I get that too, and I
really thought I was going to hate this experience, so that's really saying a lot for me.
All right, are we on I Do Not Want This? Is that where we're at? Or
yeah, okay. I think that's where we're at.
Go ahead.
I mean, we're kind of repeating ourselves at this point, because again, it's the same sort of idea, but a lot of evocative ideas and industrial noise combining to create a song that is for some reason I can't separate like sonically anymore, like what song sounds like what anymore. From this point on in the record, they all, until Hurt, they all kind of sound the same.
Well, and it's almost purposely. They do repeat riffs from earlier in the record again later on. I mean, I will point out Big Man with a Gun. I think that song got a lot of attention from the political side of things. He was constantly questioned on it, and they lumped it in with gangster rap multiple times, and they kept like Bob Dole and other politicians kept referring to it as a gangster rap song, which just shows you how big of idiots some of these politicians truly are when they decide to make a point. The song Reptile sticks out for me too, as a guitar riff that was, I think, earlier in the record too, but more predominant in that song. Were you going to say something? I feel like I cut you off.
I was just going to say about Big Man with a Gun. It's a parody of the guy with a gun. Like, it's not in favor of the guy with a gun. It's deconstructing the guy with the gun. It was really, I mean, if anything, he's more talking about his dick than he is talking about his gun. He's just calling it a gun. Because, I mean, he's talking about shoot, I'm going to come all over you. Like, that's what he's, like, as it's about the gun as a metaphor for a penis, and
Right.
and how silly that is as a comparison, because guns kill people and your penis doesn't necessarily kill anybody. So I think if you try and take this out of context and just look at it from the perspective of he's talking about guns, you sound like a talking about Born in the USA without actually listening to it.
Right. All I can think about is Love Gun from Kiss. Just nowhere near as impressive as anything on this record. Oh, man.
I fucking hate Kiss.
I try to like Kiss. I'm actually going to a show where Nine Inch Nails and Kiss are playing at the same time. Not the same time, but the same festival later on this year.
Wow.
And I've never seen Nine Inch Nails. I'm very curious. Like, that's the other thing is when I hear this stuff, I'm like, what are you playing? Like, how are you doing this on stage? But I'm totally fascinated because I know, I mean, they're the headliner that night. I think Kiss headlines another night.
I a lot of the times when I was looking for, like, because I was trying to find this on YouTube because I don't have any of the music streaming services, so anytime I listen to music, I'm listening to it on YouTube with ads, which is a weird way to experience this record. But nevertheless, I was trying to find like cleaner versions to hear the lyrics better, and so I listened to a couple of live versions, and their live performance is fucking incredible.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued and can't wait to really check it out. And I don't know, we weren't even going to go to that festival again. Every September we've gone. We were going to not go this year. Then it was just like, never seen Nine Inch Nails live. There's a handful of other bands I hadn't seen live. And it's like, gotta do it now. You want to fast forward to Hurt at this point? Or do you have more you want to talk about?
I mean, there is something to be said about the downward spiral, which is basically what some have theorized, that this is the supposed seeming attempted end of the main character of the story, the guy who's on the downward spiral. Literally, he's attempting suicide, and he does go essentially all the way towards killing himself. He talks about the spilling so much blood from such a small hole. Talking about seeing everything is all this blood coming out of himself. This really just deeply evocative and deadly sounding lyrics that are just, it is an experience. That song is a fucking experience.
Absolutely. And then there's Hurt. Obviously, Johnny Cash did a massive remake cover of it. Huge hit. Actually, the first time I ever heard it was Johnny Cash's version. And I don't know which one I like better. I think I like this one better. The Johnny Cash one it's great. Don't get me wrong. But it's very straightforward. And he makes the lyrics kind of cover what his life was, and it kind of fits. But when you hear it in context of this record, and then just kind of the out-of-tune noises he makes on purpose in this song versus the straightforward guitar part that's in tune versus the out-of-tune thing he does here, just musically it hits you just as hard as the lyrics do. And I think I like this version. But, I mean, this is a remarkable song.
Yeah. I wear my crown of shit. That's evocative. That is a powerful fucking lyric.
And again, out of context, it's lazy and stupid. But when you hear it within, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you just saw it on a piece of paper, you're like, what the fuck? Who is a kindergartner write this with the bad parents? But when you hear it with the music and the way it just
in the context, it
hits hard. And I don't know.
essentially what we're told, and again, this is just a lot of other people's interpretations, is this is a man who has attempted to kill himself and survived, and this is the kind of place where he finds himself. It hurt is his, place where he is now after having tried to die and failing at it, and considering everything else that he's failed at thus far throughout the record, having failed at killing himself just is kind of the ultimate fuck you to to himself, the universe, and that's where all this song comes together in that way, and it's awe-inspiring when you really kind of break it down into that level. And then, I mean, My Empire of Dirt is a great lyric. Like it encapsulates emptiness in a way that is. I mean, it's like a great piece of poetry. It's one line, but it's a deeply evocative piece of poetry. It evokes complete and utter emptiness.
Right. And, when I summarize this whole thing, is when we did Nevermind, obviously that's a great record. I also think, and I think two things can be true. I think Nirvana can be great and the most overrated band of all time. I think both can exist. Mm-hmm. I think we throw the word genius around way too much. But I think Trent Reznor probably is, musically. And he's not just, he's a composer, but it's not even like I can wrap my head around like what John Williams does. It makes sense to me. It's very popcorn. It's good. It's great. This is still, it's just so, there's something more to it. There's a more musicianship. There's a depth to it that maybe beyond's the right word for me, that I just can't, where do you even think of the stuff? And I just, to me, that is just the ultimate sign of respect for, as at least what I think of as an artist or a musician. It's just so original, and so now it's been copied, and you can hear it in the lesser bands by a lot.
Right.
But I'm so impressed with what he's accomplished and created, more so than a lot of other artists, especially for him to go into do a lot of the David Fincher movies, and remarkable scores, Oscar-winning scores. Just amazing.
In many ways, this is like the soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a movie being made here in your mind as you're listening to this record, and every song, whether it connects story wise or not, feels like it's telling a story. It feels like it's underscoring a story that is occurring somewhere. You feel like you're inside the head of someone who is losing their mind in the most disturbing and unstoppable way. And that is to evoke that, as well as this does, is haunting and brilliant and beautiful in a way that I really did not expect. I don't think I ever as an 18-year-old in 1994, there was no way I was ever going to appreciate this the way I do now. I couldn't possibly experience this the way I do now. It's totally. This was way over my head in 1994. I was barely grasping Nirvana. I was recovering from being like a huge fan of Poison and Bon Jovi, which the great shames of my life. They're not shames. No. I love. They're fine. They're. But it's like chocolate versus a 5-course meal from a 5-star restaurant. Like it's Poison and Bon Jovi are like a cookie. This is like a 5-star fucking meal.
Yeah, but it's like it's one of those. It's a 5-star meal that you don't want to have every day. It's like you want it like there's a special occasion for it, and that's when you need to get in this mood, or when you're in this mood, when you're feeling down. I don't mind. I like to dig in. And I've mentioned on the podcast before, I'll put on like Alice in Chains or whatever, and just when I'm feeling just depressed or upset, this would be the kind of thing that I could see going to. Now, again, just musically, I like being in that environment when I'm feeling like that. I don't like the opposite. I don't like going to, and I think you're more the opposite of that. You like more the, watching that movie that makes you feel good about. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but is that kind of
Legally Blonde? I watch Legally Blonde when I get depressed.
Right, and everybody just handles the way the depression differently, and we all feel it, no matter how where you're at. And this will definitely probably be one I turn on because one I like. Again, I'm an album guy. I don't really do playlists. I have them. Usually when it's like I'm going to go to a concert and I want to make sure I know certain songs, so I'll find the set list and I'll make a playlist out of all the set list. That's the extent of how playlists work for me. Otherwise, I'm still the old guy that's like side A, track 1, do a lot of vinyl. I'll probably, if I could ever find this on vinyl, I'd probably get it.
I'm going to do that as well. And interesting you mentioned that. I've got an interview that is dropping tomorrow on my Twitter feed and on my radio station where I'm talking to the director of a new documentary called Vinyl Nation, which is all about the resurgence of vinyl. And that movie comes out tomorrow, actually, which we'll talk about it on next week's show. It's a pretty terrific documentary. The director is really cool, but it did inspire me to want to have a brand new record collection that I'm probably going to begin with this and The Darkness as the first two that I bought.
I actually have The Darkness on vinyl. Easter is canceled. I did not listen to it this weekend. The one time I tried to, I got guilted into not going down to listen to it. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, but I felt guilty. But this is definitely one that, this should be held, alongside The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon and Aqualung and Court of the Kings, Crimson King, all these great concept albums.
It's more than just like deep dark depression music. It's more than just it's more than just the surface levels of how powerful it sounds, the impressions that people have of it, the surface. It's so much more than that. It is not a record that you want to experience all the time, or at least I don't. But it is a record that while you're experiencing it, it is powerful, evocative, emotional, and genuinely exciting to listen to.
And I'm repeating myself, but it's just insane to me that where this gets lumped in with the era of music that it came out with, with Marilyn Manson, even White Zombie and Korn and Tool and all these other bands, that they all were together. This one, these guys should be off to the side as their own, like where Pink Floyd was. They didn't need to be with Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. Pink Floyd was Pink Floyd. And that's really where these guys were, Nine Inch Nails, and really Trent Reznor.
This record is like it's ahead of its time in so many ways. It came out at the weirdest point it possibly can come out.
But at the same time, I can hear bands like White Zombie or even Rob Zombie and Static X and all these taking stuff from this and popping it, making it very pop. Taking the I don't want to say taking the art out because it's all art, but taking the substance out of it and just making it more popcorn, and it doesn't bother me. That means it's great, because if you're doing that means it was great to begin with. So it's funny how copied they've become, and I never really even noticed it till this weekend.
That is an interesting point. The stealing from this record is pretty heavy.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we wrap up the show? What do we got next week? I know you. Or go ahead.
Just this is what you're going to get on Patreon with discussions of the Beatles, Abbey Road, with the discussions of It Smells Like Teen Spirits and Metallica's Black Album. This is the kind of stuff that we're doing there with this with the Patreon, with the music, and I know that this has been your passion for a very long time. You're still even doing interviews, right?
Well, I did the one for a friend online the other day. I'm not doing what I used to. I want to, but it's too stressful for me. Like, it really does take I'm very shy. This is hard for me to begin with. We're throwing YouTube and all this stuff into it. It's definitely challenging my comfort zone, but at least here we've been doing this a long time. We have a chemistry that works, and it makes me more comfortable. When I have to bring in somebody I've never met, sometimes like heroes, I just get beat up all day long. Now, when I'm done, I'm higher than you could ever be. Mm-hmm. But getting there, it takes so much out of me, and with the way work has been, I can't do it like I used to, and I just can't. It'll kill me if I keep doing it. It really does. I am way too timid and shy to. I mean, it was good for me because it definitely pushed my comfort zone. But now, just with all the other stresses I have going on, I can't do it anymore. And quite frankly, this is the kind of, like a Trent Reznor would be where I'd want to go, because those are they're the hardest to interview because I can't wrap my head around them. The prog guys, I can't wrap my head around what they do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is definitely a passion. And, if I had this shot to ever talk to Trent Reznor, I'd try to find a way to work it into this podcast because now he's a movie guy, and I definitely would take it. But it's not what it used to be. But no, I love doing this, and we have been trying to. The first three were kind of comfort foods. I know Metallica really well. You're familiar with that record. We both knew Nirvana enough. And I mean, the Beatles, that was an easy one. Now we're trying to just go outside our comfort zone. You listen to two albums you'd never heard before. And I really dug into Nine Inch Nails for the first time ever. We'll probably want to show each other things. We'll want to go outside our comfort zone. There'll be a lot of variety of what we want to do, between maybe doing something from Madonna or Lady Gaga or, or whatever. I mean, going the gamut. We're not just going to stick in rock. We're going to try everything. But patreon.com/criticspod if you want to hear it. And we're also interested in what, if you have stuff you think we should check out, we'd be willing to do that as well.
I think I don't know how Patreon. I've never posted on our Patreon, so I don't know how that works. But you're going to post a suggestion post where people can maybe suggest records to do?
Yeah, or we could just do it on our regular social media to try to get you to go to Patreon. Because that'd be the other thing is we'd like to get more supporters over there. And I think they're just a fun, new, original idea for us that's outside the norm. Whenever we both have time, we try to make sure we knock out one of those bonus episodes. So, we'll put something out there on Twitter and Facebook and see what you say, see what you want to hear, and hopefully it'll get somebody to go over there and check out some of these episodes. Even if it's just for a month or two, it helps us out, and it's something new for you guys to listen to.
I've been sidelining as a music critic a little bit here and there. I do mostly singles reviews of the biggest song of the moment. I've written about Justin Bieber. I've written about Post Malone, John Legend. Whenever they're putting out singles, Kelly Clarkson. I did one, 21 Pilots, but never. This is the only time I've ever done full length albums because albums don't seem to exist much anymore. Although thankfully the vinyl revolution is making that change back to full length records where it's 9 to 12 songs. Again, it's pretty great. I'm happy to see that, and vinyl has grown to more than $42 billion in the last year, where it was down to under $1 billion 20 years ago.
Right. I think there was one week a couple of years ago where vinyl actually outsold downloads. And maybe that's been more. I don't know. I haven't paid attention that much lately. But yeah, I have not a massive record collection, but a collection nonetheless. And I'm going to have to definitely look for the Downward Spiral to add that one to it. Mm-hmm. And then watch Wizard of Oz at the same time and see if it works.
See, I was going to sync it up with 7.
What we should do is like Requiem for a Dream. I think that's like the ideal.
See if they match up.
Right.
I fell down a little rabbit hole the other day of watching they're doing a debunking of the Pink Floyd Wizard of Oz thing, and they pointed out that if you sync up Dark Side of the Moon with Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, it matches up just as well as with Wizard of Oz.
That's the thing is that's kind of what I always thought. And I've even heard that when they made WALL-E, they tried to sync it up with The Wall. And there is I know people that have watched that and it works. And whether they did it or not, it would be easier to do that than for just Pink Floyd to, I think, maybe not. I don't know. But I could totally see why something like Money would make sense with a lot of things. Somebody just happened to be walking when that little bass riff goes in. They must have done that on purpose. Sometimes there's just things called coincidences.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that they're correlating Money to the Wizard of Oz going into color in that moment, because that song comes on when it goes into the color of Oz. Money, they spent money to colorize the black and white.
Right.
It kind of bit of a stretch. Doesn't really match the story, does it?
No. But when you have cinematic bands and artists, they tend to line up with cinematic things more often. And that's why I could see probably if we ran Seven or Requiem for a Dream, there would be times we'd be like, holy shit, that really, I guarantee it.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
All right.
Mother would be another one, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, that's all I got.
All right. We will see you next week with our regular movies. What do we have next week? Do you remember?
The Northman.
Northman, that's right.
And The Unbearable Weight of Incredible Talent or something. I can't remember the title of it. Nick Cage's new movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Both of those in the same week, plus a documentary on vinyl. It's like somebody's being nice to us after what we went through this week.
and the best part is, like, I don't have a baseball tournament, so there's no, like, I could actually probably get to a lot of these things. I'm not as busy as I normally am. Perfectly lined up. And my wife wants to see The Northman. What the hell's going on? Everything's lining up perfectly. This is
the universe is doing it. I think the universe saw me not going to the Dumbledore movie and said, you know what? Good for you. Here's a gift. You get a Robert Eggers movie and new Nicolas Cage.
Well, and let's not forget, literally a week ago, possibly the best movie of all time we just saw. Right? Right up there. It's been a good. Was that April? Or was that March? I don't remember.
I don't remember now.
It's been a good couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then even the way this kind of came together was pretty seamless. We just kind of agreed instantly on what we wanted to do, and I was like, that was really easy. All right. I can't wait till next week now. I'll see you guys then. All right. Bye.
Yep.